Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we'll be doing some alcohol ink. So I have here Simon Hurley's brand new red rubber stamps, the leaf prints, and we are going to do some alcohol ink lifting and we're going to do some die cutting. So I have my alcohol lift ink, and what I have here is I have a piece of acetate, and I've got a little piece of tissue paper back behind it just so you can see it. And I'm going to actually cut it in half. So I'm going to cut it down to 5.5 inches, but I'm going to leave the length on it because I want to do, a full sheet so that I have extra. Or I can pick and choose from the areas that I want, but I want to make sure that it fits into my MISTI. So I've got it 6 by 8.5 or 5.5 by 8.5 inches, and it'll fit perfectly. And I'll go ahead and lay it down onto this piece of tissue paper so you can kind of see what I'm doing. And you can already see my hands are pretty stained up from playing around with alcohol ink. So I have here Dijon, ginger, rosewood, oregano, and sepia. And I have my alcohol blending solution. And I'm going to go ahead and just squirt some of this blending solution on here. And notice I'm working on my glass mat too because it cleans up easily. And then I'm just going to randomly lay down ink here. Doing alcohol ink is pretty easy. There's some things that you want to avoid in a lift situation. But what I'm trying to do is spread it all out so that it covers the entire page. And I'm trying to avoid thick, heavy lines. So where it gets too heavy, I'll put some more blending solution. And just keep blowing it out so I don't have a lot of super heavy lines. And if there's any I missed, I'll go in and blow some more in. And I'm sticking with, kind of a fall theme because we're using these leaves. This is the coolest set. This is probably going to be one of my favorites from Simon. So you want to let that completely dry. And I'm going to just wipe up my mess, and I'm going to go stand by my fan so that that dries. And the reason you want it to dry is because it lifts easier. And then I'm just checking to make sure I don't have any too heavy spots on here, because those heavy spots will run you into trouble, and you'll see. But it's fine. It just doesn't... The lifting is a little bit different, but it still works, so no worries about that. I'm going to go ahead and lay this down in my MISTI. And I'm laying it on my little waffle flower mat there. And I'm going to select some of the stamps out of here. And I have a piece of cream color paper, and we're going to be using that, so just keep hold of it. And you could use any color you want, but mine is cream for today. And I'm just going to kind of lay these leaves out more or less randomly so that I get a nice print from them. A lot of people give up on the alcohol lift, but it's one of those things that, at least for me, I have to be really patient with it, and I may have to go 2 or 3 times to get it to completely take the impression. So there's definitely kind of a method to it. And I think I'll get this tiny one on here. Now I'll leave it off for now. I'm just going to do those for now. And I'm just pushing them into my platform here, making sure they're nice and down. Now see that alcohol that was still wet on there? I want to clean that off. I don't want that on there. And you notice I'm using my hand to block off my already inked acetate because I don't want that alcohol getting on there and messing up my design. So I'm going to take my lift ink, and just like if you were going to do a heat embossing, you would do the lift ink. So you just want to kind of get your images wet with it. Make sure they're fully covered. And then I'm going to lay it down into the alcohol inked background here. Give it some pushes. Not super heavy, just some pushes, and yet you can barely see it at this point. Now I'm going to take that piece of paper and I'm going to go ahead and grab a print off of here before I clean those off and do it again. Isn't that pretty? Yeah, so might as well get your twofers while you can. And I'm going to go ahead and clean these off again before I lay them down. And want to be careful when you're cleaning them that you don't accidentally move them. I mean, red rubber stamps clean very nicely, unless they're really tiny ones. They're not likely to move, but I've had them move on me, so you just want to be careful. So I'm going to do another round of my lift ink. And you can see that it's already starting to lift, but you see in those heavier spots where you can't really see the impression of the lifting. And these leaves are kind of grungy, so they're cool. They're super cool. I love them. And they are the red rubber. They're good value too. Okay, so there I've got a nice impression, and I'm going to go ahead and grab my piece of paper and just turn it another direction and pick up that impression from there. Oh, gorgeous, yes. And I'm going to clean them off once more. I don't remember if I'm going to do a third time or not. Sometimes I do 3, sometimes I do 2. It just depends on how the impression's looking on there. Now this is not by any means done. Okay, yeah, I'm happy with that impression, so I'm going to move one of these and then take the rest off so I can get down there towards the bottom a bit. And I see that I'm a little bit off screen. I apologize for that. But I'm going to basically do the same thing. Just make sure I wipe that off before I put my lifting, because I don't want alcohol ink getting onto my lifting pad. I want it to stay nice and clean. I can't say that for my Versamark pad, but for this one, yeah, I try and keep it clean. I'll go ahead and grab just a little impression over to the side there. Wipe it off, and one more time. Okay. Get that nice, beautiful rosewood color. I'll tell you though, this stuff will stain your hands, so just be aware. So I've got everything stamped out the way I want. I'm going to pull it out of my MISTI. And of course it sticks nicely because it's acetate. And it's hard for you to see right now, so I'll put something up underneath it so that you can see what the impression looks like at this point. But I like to take a paper towel and just lay it and blot. I'm not rubbing or anything, I'm just blotting, getting up any of the excess lift ink. But that doesn't get it all, that's going to get part of it. All right, let's get that piece of paper so you can see what that looks like. Now I'm going to take my paper towel and I'm going to dab at the leaves. And I'm turning the paper towel, getting clean areas each time that I move it to another area. Because I'm not trying to transfer ink from one spot to another. Yeah, let me put this on here so you can actually see what's happening here. So you see I'm just blotting up that excess lift ink. And then eventually we'll buff the rest away and we'll be left with our leaf impressions. And I do use a clean paper towel each time. So here we go. We'll go ahead and buff that off. Lovely. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to take a piece of foil now, and this happens to be some of my Crafty Critta foil. It's called gold tie-dye, and I'm just going to lay it on there, and I'm going to use my bone folder and just press it down, and I'm just going to let the alcohol ink grab what it wants. I'm not looking for any specific pattern or anything. I'm just looking for kind of random little bits of foil. And you can skip this step, you don't need to do it. I just like the way it looks. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to end up making a shaker card with this as the background with the second impression I made. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this down to 4 1/4 because it was already at 5 1/2. So I've got 2 card fronts here, and then I'm going to trim that front that I'm going to use down to 4 by 5 and 5 1/4. And then I'm going to do the same with this paper, and I'm going to kind of pick and choose what parts I'm using. So, I mean, if you had made the impressions all over the paper, then you could do the same thing with that, but I only did it on half the paper. So I've got both of those trimmed down. There we go. And then I'm trying to decide, am I going to just sew this together, or I'm going to make a shaker? And I decide ultimately that I'm going to make a shaker. But before I do that, I'm going to get out my lunar paste here, and I'm going to make some leaves with the die cuts, the coordinating die cuts that you can get with this set. And to do that, I'm going to use the brand new copper colored lunar paste. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm so excited this color came out. It's kind of right up my wheelhouse. And I'm going to just glob a bunch on here. And then I'll take my little scraper tool and I'll just scrape it down the panel. Trying to get it as even as I can and get the whole piece covered. See, I've still got some left over there, so I'm going to kind of go in the upward motion so I get most of it onto the panel, and what's left I can scrape up and put back into the jar. And then I need to let that dry, and since it's a thin layer, it's not going to take long to dry at all. So that piece is dry. Now I'm going to go ahead and do my shaker element here. So I've got some, I want to say this is waffle flour tape. I think it is. I took it out of the wrapper a long time ago. It was a big giant roll, and I've pretty much used it down. And then I'm just going all the way around the edges. And I'll make a frame for this, because anytime you do it like this, you're going to want a frame. And just making sure I've got it even along the edge there, and then just trimming it off and making sure that everything's butted up against each other so that I don't have any holes in my shaker where my stuff goes falling out, because I am going to be putting some glitter in here. Yes, I am. But I'm going to do this in a specific way. I want the glitter to be in places. So, and I'll show you what I mean. Let me go ahead and choose the sequins I'm going to use. And these are from, oh golly, this calls for confetti. And so I've got some gold, kind of, they're gold. They're kind of gold iridescent, and then I've got some copper colored ones so that everything comes together. And right here, what I've got is some little glitter that I got from a place called Glitter Lambs. And it's chunky glitter. So what I'm going to do, first of all, is I'm going to take my anti-static powder tool and just go around the sides here to kind of take any excess sticky off. And then I'm going to find my glue. I'm going to use my fine point, and I'm going to actually just draw where I want the glitter to stick. Okay, just a few places. Then I'm going to dump the glitter on, and then I will dump out the excess off to the side. And all the rest will stick to those glue spaces that I did. So there we go. We've got our beautiful glittery. Now I'm going to go ahead and pour in my shaker bits. And I was watching Gina K the other night, and she did this trick, and I thought, that is so genius. So you want to take some of those bits and actually glue them on so that you always see the shine. Look at this, is a stack of about 8 of them stuck together. It happens sometimes when you buy them. I'm just kind of looking for where my glue is. And then I'll just pick some up and stick them down to that glue. And do that before I put on my shaker front. Let's see, is there any other spots that I want to get? There we go, these 3 more spots. And I'm trying not to glue it on top of those glitter lines that I made. All right, let's put the lid back on the glue. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this bottom off, and I'm gonna take just little pieces and fold them upward of these sides. Make sure I don't have any pieces of glitter or sequins stuck to my front, to my sticky tape. And then I'm gonna just hold that even towards the bottom. Once it's all nice and even on the bottom, I'll go ahead and press down. Then I'll lift the bottom and I'll take the backer tape off of the bottom little ledge, and I'll pull the sides off and make sure everything's all nice and stuck down. Look at that, I got a piece of stuff stuck to my thumb. That's okay. So now we've got our shaker element here. I'm trying to decide which way's up. Up is where the sequins are glued on. So here is my piece that I let dry with the lunar paste, and I'm going to go ahead and cut some leaf shapes out of that. And this stuff cuts out perfectly. And I want to use the more defined shapes. Now some of the shapes are not quite as defined because the stamps are just too, it's too far in. You really can't get some strict definition that I would want. So I'm going to just use these ones that kind of give me definition and fit as many on there as I can. Let's do this one medium one. Now if you buy these, you're going to get them on a nice neat little package, but since Simon and Ranger sent these to me, I get them in a baggie. I haven't organized them yet, I just haven't had time. Had a little surgery and yesterday, and kind of been recovering from that. Just a minor surgery, nothing to worry about. So you can see that I've got glitter stuck all over my mat there, because that's the nature of how I roll. And we're just over here cutting these out. And I forgot to cut that part out in post-production. It's funny, when I do these, I film on my iPhone, I airdrop to my iMac, and I do my voiceover. Then I edit there, and then I do my voiceover. I airdrop it to my iPad for my voiceover, because I don't know why, but my iMac sounds weird. Now that negative piece is kind of neat too. I might keep that for a future use. Isn't that neat? Could do that now, but I'm not going to because I had another plan. So I'm going to go ahead and do another full sheet of lunar paste. Lets me move everything over to the side, and I'm just kind of deciding where I want things to go here. I'm not going to glue anything down yet because I need my frame on there first. But I want stuff over to the side. Maybe something like that. All right, let's make the frame. And I'm going to use, I have a decal frame thing. Let me just move this out of the way. Decal frame thing. Needed to be cleaned off. It was pretty messy. Okay. So I've got my other lunar paste piece that I did off camera. I'm going to go ahead and park my frame in there and go ahead and die cut that middle part out so that all I have is just the frame. Alright, so we've got our die cut frame, and that's going to go on the outside to cover up that foam tape. Just like that, and I'm only just going to glue it down, not a big deal. It doesn't matter really which way either, because the outside wasn't cut with any kind of trimmer. The outside was, normal cut. So go ahead and grab my glue and glue down my frame. And I am using art glitter glue, by the way, in my little alcohol ink container that I got from Amazon. All right, there we go. And you have a lot of wiggle room when you're working with acetate, so there's that. Let me just mute this thing. we go. So, and I've got a cream color card base that I'm going to glue this down to. So it kind of matches up with the background, part of the background that we created. And then this is a leaf that I did some alcohol ink and die cut off camera earlier today that I decided I wanted to add to it. So I'm just kind of, again, going with placement. I want everything down here in the corner. Something like that. So I'll go ahead and get everything glued down here. And again, just using my art glitter glue, no big deal. Yeah, making sure I've got that very corner glued down. The lunar paste doesn't make the paper too terribly thick. Okay, we'll glue that one down. And geez, we're almost done. All we're going to need to do is add our colorful leaf and our sentiment, and we'll be golden. And I'm going to use a pre-made sentiment that I made out of the, I want to say they're everyday sentiments. I'll link them down below. They're Simon Hurley. I'm going to do Love You So Much. I think I'm going to do it right about there. So I'm going to need a little piece of foam tape right there in the corner because my leaves are up a little bit higher because they are stacked. Get that glued down and we're done with this card. I hope that you that this was helpful as far as the alcohol ink lift technique goes. Again, this is brand new from Simon Hurley and Ranger. We've got our copper colored lunar paste, and we've got our leaf prints all set on our little shaker card. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing. Take care. Bye-bye.